Welcome to Layers of Communication with your host, Lydia Taggart. Life presents experiences that add a layer to who we are and how we see the world, affecting how we communicate. Lydia is here to help you take apart the layers and create new ways to connect and build relationships. So now, please welcome the host of Layers of Communication, Lydia Taggart.
Hello, all my friends out there. Welcome to Layers of Communication. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart, and I'm so excited for you to be here today. Today, I'm going to be talking with you about the very, very basic needs to have a conversation. The most important step. I'm going to tell you how I came to this place of hosting Layers of Communication and why communication has been such an important passion that I have for me. So I don't know if you know me or not. I'll just tell you a little bit about my story. So I have 6 kids, and 4 of them are quadruplets born on the same day. My oldest had just turned 4 when the 4 babies were born. 4 and 4. That's a fun number. There's a story about a number. We'll come back to that another day when we're talking about aversions and things. Anyway, so I had these 4 babies while my oldest child was just barely turning 4 years old. Leading up to that, while he was still 3, I was on bed rest. There's a lot of uncertainty in his life. And at that time, he kind of shut down and wouldn't talk to anybody. He wasn't really a verbal person anyway. He was a thinker, an observer, and just, observed so much that he wanted to do things exactly right. And he would watch how it was done until he knew he could do it, and then he would just go do it. There wasn't like practicing involved. And I think that's unique to him, and it was fascinating to see. My favorite part of this was when he was being potty trained. Tried the first day without the diaper, and he had an accident. Didn't like getting wet. Decided it was not for him. Forget that. Who wants to do that? Not him. So, and he just observed it. He knew how it was supposed to be done. We talked about it. We trained him on it. My neighbor took him and practiced while I was on bed rest because she's like, you can't have all these kids in diapers. And anyway, came to a point where I was just like, you know what? 4-year-olds don't wear diapers. Okay. No mistakes, no wetting the bed, nothing. He knew how to do it, decided it was going to be done. That's the way it is. So he carried this on throughout other parts of his life, this determination and the stubbornness that just is kind of frustrating as a parent, but it's so admirable in other areas where, like, once you decide you're going to do something, wow, watch out, that's going to get done. So we were not really a verbal person. That's where we are in this story. And to communicate, most of us think that we need to have conversation with words. And he just didn't want to talk. And I think part of that was his little perfection stubbornness of him, but part of it was other stuff. And we found out later that he had Asperger's on the autism spectrum. And so that presents a few other exciting things to learn about. But this principle that when we figured out the freedom to speak piece, that he did not feel like he had the freedom and feel safe enough, that was an important piece that was missing for him in his life. That once we figured out how to create that freedom and create that safety net for him, that he felt safe enough to talk, watch out. If he has an opinion, he will share it with you. And he does have opinions now. Whereas before, you may never know if he has an opinion or not because he wasn't going to talk. So we had a special person at school that was supposed to help him. with his transition into junior high and things like that. And I'll tell you, this is important for you too. This is just an example of what happens in life, and it's an extreme example. I think that my life is designed to be extreme examples. Quadruplets, boy, super learning area right there, with extreme examples that I can share then with you for how to build relationships with different kinds of personalities and things. So anyway, back to my oldest son. He had this special person at school who was supposed to take care of him, but he wouldn't talk to her, would not talk to her. She had set up and taken off on all these different things that she was trying to do for him to help him, and they were not understood or received by my son. And when I took this issue to her, I said, well, did you explain that to him? Did you talk to him about it? And she said, no, he wouldn't talk to me even if I tried. Why would I waste my time talking to someone if they're not going to talk to me? There's a question right there. Why would we waste our time? Is it wasting time to try and talk to someone? If they're not going to talk to us, we don't feel invested. We feel rejected. It's a rejection that we don't like being rejected, right? Oh, how do we talk to someone without feeling rejected, without this I'm wasting my time feeling? And I know a lot of people in marriages and in other relationships at work, if you're trying to talk to your boss, you have a great idea, but why would I bother if they're not going to talk to me? They're not going to listen to me. And there is the key. Listening. And we say we need to listen. We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should listen twice as much as we speak. We've heard that, right? Do we do it? Not usually. We don't usually listen. And when we do listen, we only listen part of the time for part of, like if we're looking for something to support our point of view, then we listen until we find that and we take it to a different place where we control the conversation. We want to be in charge. We want to be heard. Now, conversations are 2 people, at least 2 people, both parties taking turns, share their ideas, share their thoughts, back and forth, back and forth. Most of the time we don't listen unless it's benefiting us in taking our portion and being in charge and directing where we want that conversation to go. So then the other person feels rejected and shuts down. Sometimes. My other son is completely the opposite, very, very verbal. And he'll make sure you know that you're stepping on his space because he needs to be seen. He needs to know that you hear him. And if you're not paying attention, he's like, hey, you're ignoring me. I was talking. Don't interrupt me. Blah, blah, blah. He has so many different ways of saying, I need your attention. And that's really all it is. The core of every conversation, every relationship, we want to be recognized and we want to be needed and accepted and loved. So back to my son with his school person. And she says, he wouldn't talk to me even if I tried. Well, she wasn't trying. She wasn't trying. And I thought, from the other point of view, I wouldn't want to talk to you either. I wouldn't. It's both sides, like we're saying about the conversation, right? 2 sides to every story. She thought it was going to be a waste of time. She didn't want the rejection. My son felt that same rejection feeling, that it wasn't worth his time to talk to her because she wasn't going to listen. It's exactly the same on both sides. So every situation comes down to this. Are we being listened to? Are we being heard? Not just a bunch of noise in the background. Yeah, I can hear you. But are we really paying attention and noting what is being said? So there's this formula that I've created. It's called the frame formula. How do you frame your conversations? How do you frame your relationships? And it goes along with the layers. Each piece layers on top of the other, right? So freedom to speak. That's step one, F. R is respect and honor. A comes next. I know how to spell. Frame. A is accountability and action. M is making it meaningful. And E is everyone wins. And that's where we want to get to this point of everyone winning. Not he's not going to listen to me. Well, she wouldn't listen to me. Just everyone can win when we set up the environment around to support and make sure that our kids or our coworkers or whoever it is that we're trying to build this relationship with, make sure we have this freedom and safety, because that's what freedom is. It takes a lot of effort for the United States to say that we are free. We have all these different freedoms. It's taken blood and millions of dollars and so much effort going into providing and protecting our freedoms. It's just like that with our relationships. When we have the freedom to speak, we need to foster this environment and this space that we can feel safe enough to speak our mind. Now, a lot of times, I'll use my kids as an example again. They are really respectful, but gosh darn it, they are going to share their opinion and let you know that they do have an opinion. And then we've taught them and we've counseled how to express your emotions and your thoughts while still respecting and hearing the other side and other people. Regardless of what the stance is, if you go through the steps, it always comes back to an I can agree with you. I can see and understand where you're coming from. I might disagree, but I can see and understand what your point of view is and why that would be beneficial. There's always a way to see that. So, freedom to speak. We want to give them permission and listen. One of the things that I've learned, my favorite tool, other than the timer can be used in the freedom to speak step as well. Pausing, give a pause. Oh my goodness, this is so helpful. This is my favorite thing. They say count to 10. Count to 10 if you are going to lose your temper. Well, why don't we count to 10 when we're waiting for someone to respond to us? Why don't we count to 20 if we're looking for them to... It's happened so many times in the last week with so many people and clients and my own personal family where just pause and listen to the whole story. We hear part of it, maybe the first sentence or two, and we get defensive. Oh, that's not what I meant. What are you thinking? Oh, I never said that. How do you get that idea? But if we pause instead of reacting, be in control of ourselves, right? Because we can control ourselves. You can control yourself. I can control myself. I don't have to go crazy. Even kids can learn how to control themselves in situations and listen to the whole story before they respond. This looks like not interrupting. You give them a full time to express whatever they're saying. How do you know when they're done talking? Well, you could say, is it my turn to talk yet? That's fair. Don't just jump on their toes and say, oh, it's my turn. You took a breath. Now, my very verbal son, he will get you every time. Is like, I'm not done talking. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. So this is really, really good for those people who just keep talking and talking. And then they're like, blah, 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 blah. And you think in that moment when they take their breath, you think, oh, here's my chance. I should respond to something that they're saying. But sometimes, especially if they're in a passionate moment where they're really heated or excited about something, and it doesn't have to be bad. They could be really excited about something awesome that happened, and they just want to share it and share. If they take that breath and you jump in and say, oh, that's so awesome, they're like, yeah, but you didn't hear the best part, right? And it's important to stay with them and be on their level of where they're going and how, if they're going to take a breath, just check in and say, isn't it my turn to talk? I have something to say too. Or you could just say, that's so exciting. And then see if they continue on, and they will probably say, yeah, and you haven't even heard the best part yet. Or in the case that's more common, they take a breath and you jump in and start defending yourself if you're having a disagreement. And then they get so fired up. Oh, you interrupted me. I didn't tell you everything. Sometimes we're having a conversation, and like I was saying before, we start to jump to that conclusion that it's an argument, it's a disagreement. But if you wait and you just listen, sometimes you got to listen for a long time to see the whole story, especially if they're really passionate about it. If you wait and listen, it could be, and it has been for me at least twice this last week, it turns into a compliment or something that they admire about you instead of something for you to defend. I was like, wow. Then this happened repeatedly this week, and I thought, I need to share this on my show with you guys. I just really need to share this with you guys, because we think that we need to be defensive. We have this belief set that we have to protect ourselves, and we don't always have to protect us. Sometimes it's a compliment. Sometimes there's people on our side rooting for us and going to bat for us. One of my sisters went to bat for me this last week, and I was like, holy cow. And at first I was like, just hold your tongue, Lydia. Just listen, keep listening. Don't interrupt. And sometimes you've got to remind yourself, don't interrupt. I tell myself that with one of my kids all the time. And they hear it from me all the time. When we're taking turns talking or pretending to take turns talking, I was like, hey, you're interrupting. That right there, that's what interrupting looks like. And we can just bring it to our attention and say, that's what interrupting looks like. No judgment, no harsh, like, hey, you're always interrupting me, rawr. It doesn't have to be like that. We can just bring it to our attention, just like any of our emotions. We bring it to our attention, take note of it, and go, oh, that's what that looks like. Okay, I recognize it. Now I know what to do with it. Because if we don't recognize it, how are we going to fix it? How are we going to deal with it? We've got to bring those things to our attention and bring them to our kids' attention, and sometimes bring them to the other people around us, their attention. And we got to be careful too, though. Another example of things to be careful with, and why a pause is so incredible in creating this freedom to speak. If you want true, honest feedback, some people call it constructive criticism. If you want real, honest feedback, if you've done a project, if you're doing a homework assignment, or if you have some grand idea, and this comes with writing books a lot. If you're authoring a book, you need honest feedback, not just somebody saying, yes, I love you and you're awesome and everything you do is awesome. Mwah! Yes, I love it. You need something that will help you. And that's where honesty comes in. If you're interrupting and we're not truly listening, then people have a hard time being 100% honest with us. If we're going to say, let's take a really simple example of, does this outfit look good on me? Should I wear this outfit or that outfit? Oh, everything looks great on you. You're just beautiful, which is great to hear. But if you're really honestly wanting to know and not dumping on yourself or having negative things about, oh, I'm not pretty enough if I'm not wearing the best outfit, or does this make me look fat? We don't benefit from those kinds of conversations. We want an honest conversation. Say, I'm going to do this presentation in front of my boss. I need to look spectacular. How does this outfit look? Then you can have a completely honest feedback. Oh yeah, that looks great. And this one over here would look even better. Or that one doesn't really fit you, or that button is missing, or my favorite one, hey, you got something right there, something green from your lunch sticking in your teeth. Oh my goodness, thank you for telling me. Thank you for being honest. And this is where the freedom to speak and having that safety net comes in. You can have honest, real relationships with anybody around you. And isn't it nice to know when you've got something stuck in your teeth before, like 2 or 3 hours later, when you go to the bathroom and see yourself in the mirror and go, how long has that been there? Oh no. I love honest people. I love when someone can come up to me and say, hey, there's a mistake right here. Maybe you want to pay attention to this mistake. Thank you. I want to be better and improve and not repeat that mistake 500 more times before I realize that I'm making a mistake. Thank you. Just a sincere thank you for being honest with me. So when my son, we decided we're going to have this freedom to speak. How do you create this? If you don't have this kind of conversation with other people yet, what can we do about it? What is it? So here's my favorite thing. My very, very favorite thing. I'm going to get emotional about it. So amazing. We call them PPIs, personal parent interviews. And you can expand this to whatever relationship you're having. We try to meet on a weekly basis with each of our children and each other as spouse individually. Do you have any needs? How's school going? How's your friends going? How's whatever's going on in their life? A lot of times it's like, yeah, my lunches are not big enough. I'm hungry. Okay, let's make you more food. I was late. I was too early. It's hard for me to sit for an hour and wait for the other person to get out of their extracurricular activity, or, any number of things. Sometimes it's something bigger. Like, I'm having an issue with my brother. He keeps stealing my towels, or my socks keep disappearing. They're always in so-and-so's drawer instead of mine. Or, they're things that are things, but they're affecting relationships. Sometimes if we don't have this set up already, then it's hard for them to come when they have a real need. Because we have this weekly appointment, then they can say, hey, yo. My one boy says yo to me all the time. That's funny because I said that and I was like, oh, that's not what I usually say, but that's my kids' words. Yo, I got something to say during PPI. Write it down, make sure you don't forget. Or, we have different ways of remembering. Sometimes just a text. Hey, I want to talk to you about this in PPI. Okay. And a lot of times when there's a big change, like right now with school starting, we have so much going on, changing our schedules. I've got 5 of my kids going to a new school this year, switching schools. Stephen's a senior this year. So much stress and pressure. And his senior year is awesome, but he's looking forward and going, I'm going to be an adult. I don't know how to do this and this and this. And so we're making a list. His thing in his last PPI was, what do you need to know before you're out on your own as an adult that we haven't discussed? Do you know how to cook stuff? How many things do you know how to cook? Are you going to be able to provide meals for yourself? Are you going to be able to take care of your laundry by yourself? These things that contribute to his emotional safety can be addressed in a PPI. And they don't have to be long. This last one that we had, oh my goodness, it lasted like forever. We said, everybody's going to have a certain amount of time, but we had so much going on and so much change that needed to be addressed. And each of the quads have 7 teachers now. And how is this class? How is this class? Did you make a friend in this one? And did you make any friends in that one? And who did you sit by for lunch? And so much stuff. And in the end, I was like, wow, that was not 10 minutes each kid. But it was needed so much. And we had a German exchange student over the summer, and we didn't do the same schedule. We had some crazy things. When I told our kids on Sundays when we usually do our PPIs, I said, today is Sunday, we're doing PPIs. And I heard, yay, all right. They were excited. They're dancing around the kitchen. Not all of them. Some of them don't dance. But they were really excited to have this time, just time to say, hey, I love you. I'm paying attention to you. What do you have going on in your world? What's going on? And that's all it was. That's all they need to create that freedom to speak. It's not freedom of speech, but the freedom to speak. We have these rights and freedoms, but are we really providing a place for our loved ones to share with us? Are we listening? And sometimes, at the beginning when we first started this, and my very verbal boy was super verbal and he was super upset, I had to set the timer for myself. So I am not going to say anything for 5 minutes. I'm just going to listen. Just listening. Oh my goodness. And then there's another time where he had so much going on in his mind. And I admit, I thought that 20 minutes was long enough to listen before he got to his point, but it wasn't. And so probably the 3rd, maybe the 4th time that he starts ranting and going on about this. And I said, you know what? We've had this conversation before. And I reminded him all of the points that I had given him. And he said, yeah, but Mom, you keep interrupting me. I still haven't been able to tell you the whole story. I said, okay, go ahead. And it was probably over an hour that I listened to him, and he was feisty. Oh, he was so feisty about it. And it was a thing I was requiring him to participate in. He didn't want to have anything to do with. And I said, you know what? You need to do this before you form an opinion on whether it's good or bad. You need to experience it. Experience it 100% and then have your opinion. If you decide you don't like it, you don't ever want to do it again, great. I support you in that. But for now, you need to experience it. I was very strict on this, has to be experienced before you form an opinion on it. And so anyway, he kept saying he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't like it. He already knows he doesn't like it. And where it came down to not interrupting, he would pause and he'd look at me, and this is eye contact. very important to hold eye contact, or at least look in their general direction while they're talking to you, okay? The freedom to speak. He would pause and he'd look at me and he says something to the effect of, "You're not talking. Are you listening to me?" And I said, "Yes. You asked me not to interrupt. I'm just listening. I'm not interrupting." And then he'd go, "Oh, okay." And then blah, 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 blah. And he'd go on and on. And every few minutes, he would say, you're not saying anything. Still just listening. Still not interrupting. Okay. And once he finally got all of it out, and it seemed like forever, sometimes we need to give our relationships a lot more time than we do. So he got it all out. And in the beginning, he was totally fighting with me. And it probably went on for a week, maybe 2 weeks, where he was just butting heads with me, growling at me every time he saw me, really grumpy. And I was kind of not excited to see him very often during that time because it was a constant topic. He just was so grumpy about it. And so when you get it all out, 100%, give them the time and don't interrupt until the very end. And these are for the very verbal ones. Other kids don't need as much attention like this, but he needed it this day. And in the end, "Thanks, Mom. How can I help you? What do you need?" Totally turned around because I listened. I was there for him. He had that freedom and the safety and respecting his opinion. And it hasn't been brought up again at all, where it was a constant everyday thing for a couple weeks. When we let them talk, and I thought that I had already given him plenty of time. So if you're having an issue with something like that, just say, "Hey, do you have more that you want to say about this? Maybe I haven't heard the whole story. Go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt. I'm going to listen." And just doing that one step, oh my goodness, their respect for you just skyrockets. It is amazing. When we have someone who respects us enough to give us time and to listen and to not interrupt, oh my goodness, that respect and honor just is amazing. And like I said, he's been just an angel since on that topic. I mean, there's other things that come up, of course, but the PPI and listening, take a pause and just listen. Maybe it's going to be awesome. Maybe these disagreements are going to turn out awesome. Maybe we learn something that we didn't know before. Or maybe we just sit and listen until they're totally all the way done. And I realize that we need to sleep and we have jobs that we need to go to. And we have all these commitments that we need to keep. Why do we have them though? Why do we want to pay for a home? Why do we want to pay and earn money to pay for anything? It's because we love our family. We love having somewhere to live. We want to provide for our family because we love them. And if we think that our family doesn't deserve as much time and attention in person for listening and giving them this freedom to speak, what's it all for? What's it going to benefit? Oh, I have to go to work. Okay, set up an appointment for a PPI. I have to go to work and I really want to spend time with you. So let's set up a time that we can meet. Is Sunday good for you? Maybe Friday is better. Pick a time and let them show up too. So that is our show today. We're out of time. Oh, I can't believe we're out of time already. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been very helpful for you. This really is the foundation for all of our communication being able to listen and see the person for who they are and value them. We think that we value them. It takes a completely different meaning when we go through the layers and listen to what they're really trying to say and share from their heart. I was thinking about that particular teacher at the school who wasn't going to listen because it wasn't worth her time. And yeah, we miss out on relationships when we don't give them time. And we're worth it. You're worth it. And so are they. You can find me at lydiataggart.com or cheerfulbychoice.com. I'm Lydia Taggart, and this is Layers of Communication. Tune in next week. I'll see you there.
You've been listening to Layers of Communication with your host, Lydia Taggart. Tune in next week as we discover the layers in order to communicate and connect down to your core on Lydia Taggart's Layers of Communication.